All right.
I'm an old guy. My story started late. I spent 40 years in the military and then DIA combined 40 years, 42 years.
Thank you for your service.
So I was in the intelligence business. Um, so I'm retired now, and I've been. Reason why I'm into music is because my son is a songwriter. He started writing music out of no songs out of nowhere after a head injury in a car accident. His story is actually public online. Um, and then he also struggles with mental health. I have another son that struggles with mental health. So I've been my retirement years, trying to help them as much as I possibly can. And here's how I got into crypto. I got into crypto because my son is a abstract artist, and I'll give you an example. This is one of his that I love. I don't know if you can see that.
Wow.
Very nice.
And
Look at
and
that.
and that particular painting was one that's one, and that's not him, and this is another one. Um, you know, and but a lot of his stuff is more abstract, like that. Okay, and then he also does some little things like, I don't know if you can see that, like that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Okay, so he's an artist. So I was trying to figure out ways to help him. So I read about NFTs. So I figured, I got to figure out how to do this. I saw some sites where you could just put one up, but I figured, there's got to be something more to this than that. So I started looking into this, and then this group invited me and they promised they would also help me develop these crypto coins. But they ended up it was called the WH Alliance. And they invited me in, and they gave me $500 to learn how to trade, to do the longs and the shorts and all that kind of stuff. And I did, and I actually made money, and they said I could keep the profits, but I had to give them back the $500. And they also, when I got into that, I got into this exchange called MMO coin or MMN coin. I can't remember which one it is. If you look it up, you can find it. Look up WH Alliance and MMO coin. And it was all real to me. It worked. And basically what they did was they built a relationship with me. And this gal named Rebecca Martin said, "Oh, we're gonna help you, and with your helping your kids out and stuff like that, because they like my son's music, and they were talked about inviting him to their like luncheon thing they were going to have at the launch of their AI Profit Pulse system. They were going to launch this system called AI Profit Pulse, and that's how they were making trading decisions. Supposedly, they were using this AI Profit Pulse system to make decisions to go long, to go short, and to also when to buy and when to close the order. And so I got all excited about this, and we started putting our own money in it, our own retirement savings. And we ended up pulling out quite a bit of savings and putting it in there, and they operated on this tier level. This is my first experience with crypto, okay? They operated on this tier level, okay? The tier started at 50,000 and went up to like millions of dollars. And there were all these people in the WhatsApp chat. Matter of fact, I sent Epic some information about my particular case that he's got a lot of it. I just told him today. I said if he ever wants to share any of it in the interest of helping others, it's fine with me. because I really think that this needs to be shared, because it can happen to anybody. It happened to me. I'm an intelligence officer. It happened to me. I mean, I always thought I was a critical thinker and I would never get scammed. Well, let me tell you something. It happens. So there went on and on and on. I eventually got my account up to like a couple $1 million, really. And it was, and one part of it, in order for them to increase my tier level, they said that they would give me this $120,000 loan, because I was in the process of actually transferring our retirement savings from what's known as the TSP, the federal savings thing, because it's very difficult to manipulate money in that. And they recommend that I put it in Discover Bank, because they say Discover Bank is real easy for. They love crypto, so they work with it easier, without questioning it, And they would always warn me, don't tell the bank you're working with crypto, because if you tell the bank you're working with crypto, they're going to shut you down and maybe even take your money, And I believed them, They won my trust, okay. This group, Professor Quisenberry and Rebecca Martin, and I don't know, there was a couple other ones there that I got to know online, and so I was both my wife and I, when we were both DIA, both my wife and I were both hook, line, and sinker in on this, okay. Yeah, I look back now and, I think about what the fuck, how did I do this, but, it happened. So it got to the point to where, and so I said, okay, I'll take this loan to get me up to the tier level, because I've got to move this money, and that takes time, because it took quite a bit of time, actually more time than I thought it would take, to get the money in Discover. And then once that I had Discover, they'd given me this $120,000. I had now had almost $1 million in the account, because of all the trading and stuff like that. And they said, okay, you have to pay the money back, but you can't pay it back until, you can't use your money in your account until this AI Profit Pulse system goes live. Okay. And so, and I understood that, that was reasonable. I accepted that. And so it was supposed to go live in March, actually. But then they started delaying it, And so all this happened between December, and really started in January, when the money started moving, and March. So now I'm in for about roughly 100,000 of my own money and 120,000 of their money that I've got to pay back. Okay, and I'm looking at $1 million in my account. So I was going to put more in and up the level, because then they would, if you got to a certain tier, they'd said, okay, now you can be a regional transfer agent for this AI Profit Pulse system when it comes out. And they said it's generational wealth. You could get involved in this, and you can. And I had another guy I made as a friend named Mike Harris on there, that he suggested that we go in together on one of these things, and he had already had like $1 million tied up in all this stuff, and so what we did was we kept talking, and then finally the money got into my Discover Bank. And I was going to transfer like $300,000 in to my account to pay off the 120, and then put the rest in to, secure my regional agency thing. And then that's when everything started falling apart. And really what opened, and that's when my eyes began to be opened, and I realized that I was being scammed. It's interesting. I have the complete chat log from this WHA WhatsApp thing. It's like 500 megabytes worth of data. That FBI's got it now and the Secret Service has it now. But, all these people going every day, chatting back and forth, and everything was always good. It was nothing, any negative stuff on it or not. I realized now that most of those people in there were bots. Okay, I didn't know that, but I do now. I can recognize almost any scam now when it comes to that kind of thing because because I look for those kind of things all my life. One of my specialties in intelligence was denial and deception, of foreign denial and deception. When I went to Afghanistan, I was trained in Afghans in intelligence operations. In 2013 was my last tour out of DIA anyway. And so I had all this this money and stuff, and I was about ready to, I got it in Discover Bank, and we sat down and we were going to move the money. At the time, we had no issues with it at all. And I hit the button and it said, whoops, you can't do this. You've got a 60-day hold period. And I got pissed, So I went back to Rebecca and I told her, and she got and I've got this all on chat too. But she gets all upset with me and said, "Well, you're paying daily interest on this now." And I'm the kind of guy that if I have a bill, I pay it off. I've never had until now, because now my credit's getting destroyed. I had never had an issue with paying off anything. Okay. I figured, well, I got to wait 60 days, so I got to get this money somehow. So I went out and I went to SoFi and I went to Upgrade and I went to other, and she just said I get loans from these people, and I did. So I got over $100,000 worth of loans from SoFi, and because we had two mortgages. We have the house we live in, and we have a little condo down in Florida that, my wife's dream was to go down there and be a snowbird and all that kind of stuff. And that's on the market now, and we can't sell it because of the market. But, and so, I was really surprised that SoFi gave me that $75,000 loan. I'll be honest with you. I said, but my thoughts were, well, I'm going to pay it back, so it's not a big deal. I'm going to have my money soon because this AI Profit Pulse is going to go live. I'm going to have my money soon. So it's not a big deal. And at the time, it gone like it got up to $5 million in that account. I've got the screenshot to show you. It's crazy. But the only thing that went through my head was, wow, both my sons struggle with mental health. I was thinking, man, I could do some really cool stuff with this now. I could build like a small little housing complex, like a group home for people, because one of the problems with dealing with mental health issues is housing. It's very, very difficult to get housing, and there's like lists for people to go and live in a group home, And we were thinking about, wouldn't it be cool to do that? And I all of a sudden I'm lighting up thinking, wow, maybe we can finally do something like this now. We can make this happen for a lot of people and help them. And so I went and got this loan and everything, and started paying it back. And when I paid it back, I was short like $17,000. So my friend Mike Harris said, that wanted to go in with me on this regional thing, said, hey, listen, I'll cover the rest of it for you. So we set up with their MMO coin account, customer service thing. They were very friendly, by the way. And we ended up using that money to pay it off. And so then as March went ticking by, I started seeing some things that started to bother me. First of all, one of their WhatsApp sites went down, and but they brought it right. They brought another one right back up again. They said they had to close that one because there was technical issues with it or something like that. And then I started telling Rebecca, I said, listen, I really need to pay this money off, because if I don't pay this money off, I'm going to continue paying you guys interest. I'm going to, if I don't pay this money off soon, I was paying them interest. So now I've got to pay this loan off that I had gotten to pay off the interest to the loan that they gave me. Sorry, it's complicated. And I know this all sounds weird. It hurts to talk about it, but I mean, it's important to talk about it because it actually helps me to talk about it. And so, because it helps me understand it and better, so I can help others, So, the money was, I went back and forth with Rebecca. I says, I've got to get this money out and pay this loan back because we can't afford to continue paying on this loan. And the intent was we were going to get our money out, be able to. And then they said, well, okay, you can pay it back, but you got to pay us a 3% management fee to get your access to your money. That's another 100. Was a 3% at the time. My account, because of an ICO they had. This ICO, I can't even remember what the coin was. My account jumped from like $1 million to $5 million. And I was upset that I couldn't even take it to pay off, to take the money I had gotten as a loan to pay them off, to get the money to pay off the loans that I had to, so I'm out my money, I'm out the money that I got for the loan now to pay them off. Okay. And they kept, pushing back, saying I had to give them more money for me to get access to my money. And I finally looked at Connie, my wife, and I said, Connie, I think we've been had, we've been had. So I started making some phone calls. And I ended up talking to a group called the Crypto Lawyers out of Miami. First, I as soon as I started doing that, I started getting flooded with all these, we'll get your crypto back, blah, 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 but I was told by somebody else, and I can't remember who, says, be very careful when you go out and look and try to get help. Because there's very few people in this field that can really, really help you, So I went out to them, and they actually, and they said, yeah, you're being, I stayed involved with the group. I didn't put any more money in, but I stayed involved because it's my nature to stay involved because of my background, okay? So now I put my intelligence officer hat on, okay? Now what I'm doing is I'm taking screenshots. I'm pulling everything I can possibly pull from back in my computer. I went and downloaded all the WhatsApp chats, everything. I didn't tell them that I suspected that this was a scam, but I was told after the Crypto Lawyers came back, yeah, it's definitely a scam. Well, I went and I paid the Crypto Lawyers. I had to pay them up front a little bit. I think I gave them $5,000, which was reasonable they did a complete forensics report for me. And that report was turned over to the FBI and Secret Service. Since then, this whole WHA alliance thing has been taken down. It was up there for about a month I think it was into May, it was still up and operating, along with their fake exchange. And let me tell you something about this MMO coin exchange. And if you look up MMO coin and WH Alliance and Washington State, because they were based out of Washington State, okay, There's articles in there, about them. Apparently, a lot of these fraudulent crypto companies base their operation and they're incorporated out of Washington State, but they're offshore companies. They're almost guaranteed offshore. They do that as kind of they even had a LinkedIn page for the WH Alliance on LinkedIn. They even had a couple of articles. They had a white paper out on all their tokens, and they had this coin called the WHA coin. Every time you signed into their WhatsApp page, every day you would for your quote instruction, and they gave some good financial instruction. But you put a little WHA in your, you sent a little WHA message, and then you screenshotted that and sent it to their folks, and they gave you points. And so in the weekend you could spin this wheel and get crypto and all this other kind of stuff. I must have had 5,000 WHA coins that were supposedly worth $20 a piece. And so, long story short is, the rug got pulled, obviously. I realized it was a scam. I actually had, after my cash wires that I sent from, first I tried Discover Bank, but they wouldn't do it. So at the time, I was still believing in everything. So I went ahead, I had them send it to Discover Bank and did it. But apparently Bank of America, and I'm glad they did this, they talked to the authorities because I think they thought I was trying to do something funky with money or something. And they reported me because it was a large sum of money. So I was sitting in my chair, the same one I'm sitting in right now, and I look over and I get a knock on my door one day in the middle of the day, and it was a police officer, and she had a member of the adult protective services with them, and they came in. He wanted to talk to me about that transfer and everything and what was going on. And I told him the whole story. And he says, yeah, he said, the detective said, yeah, you were scammed and we're here to help you, And so he wanted all the information, and he submitted a report, and he actually submitted a report to the FBI. And then, but by the time they knocked on my door, all this stuff had transpired. And, I had already realized it. They were just making sure I was okay, and I'm very, very grateful that they did that. I just wish I would have listened to people, beforehand, and I didn't, because I had no reason not at the time. I know this is weird and funny to say it, but I had no reason not to believe these scammers at the time, because they were doing everything. I mean, it was so sophisticated. I mean, the simulation on the MMO coin exchange was absolutely incredibly real. And I sometimes I go on like Coinbase and look at their chart and go back to MMO coin, and everything was matching up. But the only thing is their coins, their tokens that they were pushing were not on Coinbase or anything else. At first I couldn't understand that. They said, well, eventually they'll get on Coinbase and all these other ones, once they're fully accepted. Once AI Profit Pulse goes live. If you look up AI Profit Pulse system, apparently it's still floating around. You'll be able to learn more about WH Alliance, stuff like that in the scam. But as a matter of fact, I just had an email with there's a FBI guy out of San Francisco that's assigned to this case. And I sent him some information recently that I found out about, because I looked up WH Alliance and MMO coin online, and apparently on one of those crypto sites, they're still showing that WHA coin on there, and they're showing all the holders of it. I think there are like 20 wallet addresses or something like that. Where you can. I was just on it the other night, and that's what I actually sent to the FBI guy and said, "Hey, I found this," and he says, "Oh yeah, there's a larger group looking into that whole infrastructure, that whole thing there." So I think my chances of recovery are probably 10%, maybe. Now we're in debt. My credit is ruined because we had to actually default on 2 of those loans. And so we've got to work to rebuild that. I've never, and I never even had a late check my entire life. Excuse me. That hat looked cool. I never had a late check. I mean, and now, my hopes and dreams, my biggest concern is what's going to happen to my boys, when I'm gone, because the show doesn't go on forever. My son is a songwriter. His name is Andrew Neal. You can find him on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. Andrew Neal. If you look up Andrew Neal music, there's articles about him out there. NEIL. And I started a small, back when he started doing music, I started a small, record label called Treeheart Records to try to help him. Actually, tonight I'm uploading new music for a friend of mine that didn't know how to do it, so I'm just uploading it for him. To symphonic distribution. So I started that. I started a Code Purple Deals website, codepurpledeals.com, to help my son with his art, his abstract art. It's a wearable art store, but I haven't done anything with that. But I had really hoped with this, all this stuff was, and the thing is, it didn't turn me off of crypto. That's what amazes me. What it did to me was, you know what, I'm going to learn this stuff as much as I possibly can, because I know that there's that it's real. The real crypto is real. I know it's real, and I started getting into XRP, because I began reading about it, and I began seeing the utility of XRP, and now it's been it's been about a year, since all this started. That's how new I am to crypto. So, for the last 6 months, I've been trying to build a little XRP bag, to use your all's lingo, and I've got like about 3,000 XRP, but I'm in higher than what it is right now. But that doesn't bother me, because, I don't really know. I thought I knew how to trade because they, quote, taught me how to trade, but now I look at some of these sites and I'm scared to do that. It's probably, I got to learn more about that before I thought I was really getting good at it. I was following their instructions, so. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope I just hope if somebody's out there right now listening, that's and these groups are they're all over the place. They're still on WhatsApp. I go into WhatsApp now. I get invited to groups, and I'll go into a WhatsApp group now, and I'll join it just because I want to rat them out. I want to find them, and I want to report them. But first, I've got to get information about them. And so that's what I just did that recently with a group that was on WhatsApp. Okay. They're no longer up. So, and they had I can't remember, they had a couple hundred people in that group. I'm saying there is people like me out there all over this place that are just people are just taking stuff from them and they don't even know it in some cases. I just thank God, and I do mean the God with the big G, because somehow he gave me the realization that I was being taken advantage of. And so when I remember, never forget that night, we were down in Florida, and I looked at my wife and I said, wow, we got scammed. And she just looked at me and said, yeah, I think so. I think you're right, Ray. And, and then we just immediately turned our attention to trying to figure out how can we recover from this? How can we avoid getting trapped into something like this again? And then, so I started doing a lot of things. I started one of the things I tried to do was, and I was thinking about actually putting my story in a video, but I started a mental health YouTube channel called The Code Purple Project. And I was hoping to try to monetize that. Code Purple, by the way, you see, I have a lot of Code Purple stuff. My middle son is the songwriter, Andrew Neal, was hospitalized between 2014 and 2017 for 3 years at a state psychiatric hospital. He was actually a recruited athlete out of high school, and he was recruited by West Point. He went to the prep school. He he graduated from that, earned his appointment to the academy, West Point at the class of 2012, but he started struggling. And they actually diagnosed him with ADHD while he was there. And he actually, he resigned his plea year. He came home in his own mind in disgrace. And so, and then a week later, he had a car accident and a head injury. And a week after that, his first psychotic episode. This was back in 2009. But then you always got to look for the lemons when you have a lemonade, when you have the lemons. You got to try to make that lemonade, He, out of nowhere, declared himself an artist and a songwriter and started writing songs when he's never had any musical background at all. He literally started writing songs. And at first, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't believe it. We're actually writing a book about that whole saga. It's going to be called Kind of Hurt. And I'm in the process of writing that right now. And it's a tough story to write, but I think it's really important for people to understand it, especially with what just happened with the Reiners, I mean, the whole mental health thing and addiction thing is out of hand, and our country doesn't know how to handle it. So he started writing all these songs and stuff, and I helped him release some. And then he had a very bad, I was deployed in 2013 of my final deployment to Afghanistan. And while he was home, fortunately, my wife had to deal with this by herself. He had a very bad psychotic episode and stabbed my youngest son in a psychotic episode. So, and that's all going to be part of the book and everything. And that's when our lives really, truly changed forever. And that's when I started getting into advocating for mental health and mental illness and addiction, because my other son got involved in that too. But he started writing songs out of nowhere, and so he stabbed him, and he was obviously sent to jail. He spent 7.5 months in jail before he was found not guilty by reason of insanity, which was the proper justice thing. I mean, it was the proper decision. So he was committed to the state hospital system. While he was there, he continued writing songs. Because, people keep in mind, between 2009 and 2013, when the incident occurred, he was literally living in our basement writing music, writing songs. And people have started comparing to Daniel Johnston and some other people, And so when he got out of the hospital, I said, he wanted to tell a story. And the thing is, here's the problem. He got the help he needed. He got the help he so desperately needed. But the only reason why Andrew got that help was because he ran into the criminal justice system. And he was fortunate in that all that kind of worked out for him. And so he got the help he needed. All these other people are out there, they can't get that help. Why? They've got to be able to get this help. We're the richest country in the world. They've got to be able to get help. Andrew got help and he learned how to manage his illness. Now he's an advocate for those that struggle. He still struggles with it, but he doesn't. He takes his medication like he should. He's very, very. He's like a Gandhi-like person. He's an incredible young man. And so he was writing all these songs, and so we got out. He said, "Well, let's release an album. Take some of those songs you wrote and release an album called." And so we did. And so we called the album Code Purple Andrew Neal. Reason why we used that, because while he was in the hospital, they had a term they used, Code Purple. And it was like anytime a patient was acting out or needed help, you would hear an announcement over the intercom, Code Purple, Oak Ward, in the cafeteria, security and medical needed ASAP, Code Purple, Code Purple. So we heard that a lot when we would visit him every weekend. So we did that, and we would visit him a lot. As a matter of fact, during one of our first visits, he said, "Dad," he said, "you need to learn how to play the guitar. So when I get out of here, we can write songs together." And I did. I learned. As a matter of fact, if you look up Ramblin' Ray Maternick on YouTube, that's me. And Ramblin' Ray. But anyway, so we wrote a bunch of songs. One of the songs is on his Freak album. It's called Rain, that we wrote together. And we actually wrote that while he was still hospitalized. I would take him out. We would visit and take him out on weekends in Stanton, Virginia. And we would go to these places and go to parks and, of course, take him out to lunch and stuff like that, because he had like a 6-hour pass. And I would bring guitars with me, and we would he would teach me some things. And I actually learned the old-fashioned way. When he taught himself to play the guitar, he learned by writing songs. He's never played a cover, so he didn't even know what a chord, what the chords are on the guitar. But anyway, so he got out in 2017, and we released this album, Code Purple Andrew Neal, on World Mental Health Day in October 2017. That's when I started my label and stuff like that, and everything was fine. He's released like 6 albums since then. So a lot of my money I saved went to help him with his music and stuff like that. And I'm perfectly good with that, because I was really trying to give him a way to make it, because it took me a while. And this is all going to be in the book too. It took me a while to really understand what was going on, because no family wants to hear those 2 words, mental illness. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants that to be part of their family. But you know what? It happens. And then you've got to deal with it. But what you've got to do is you just got to keep trying, just like the Reiners did with their son. Of course, he had another problem. He was a meth addict, or he was a problem with drugs. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say those things on the live thing here, but it's just a very, very sad situation. And that particular incident has been in my mind since it happened, really. And I can't get it out of my head. So we wrote that book, and then and going back to the crypto, and then I was trying to figure out how to help my other son with his art, and I showed you the painting with the face and stuff like that. So what we were thinking about doing some kind of token like related to that, call it the code purple token or something like that, related to mental health, to find some kind of utility with mental health, and how we can help people with mental health. And so that's how I got involved in this group, because they said that's one of the things that were going to help me build. That's one of the ways they brought me in, because apparently Rebecca did a spec sheet and told me how much it would cost to actually put one of these things together. And it was like, according to her, it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars, to actually do one correctly, and I didn't have that kind of money, So I know I've kind of gone around the world with this. It's just so complex, and it's so, yeah. Actually, I think when some people hear it, they go, "What?" How did But believe me, it happens, and that's the point I want to really make hard here. Please be careful. I'm just so happy I ran into your group, because and to Epic, and especially when I somehow wandered into Epic's chat, I began hearing things that made a lot of sense to me, and there was authenticity there. I could sense it. And I always thought I was a good person. I was not a good person, but a person that I could really judge character. I'm a fairly empathetic person, so I kind of, you feel it, sometimes. And that's how I felt. The more I listened, the more I realized that, these guys definitely know what they're talking about. They're not hyping anything. They're not, they're just trying to give information out there, and that's why, it's important that you guys continue doing what you're doing. Okay. And try to inform people the truth, about crypto and stuff like that. I mean, just based on what I've been reading and what I've learned so far, crypto is the future, I think, of our financial system. I mean, it's an evolution. We're heading in that direction, and there's no stopping it. The old ways are too archaic. I grew up. I remember when I was in the military, when I first got in, I was real excited when we got our first IBM Selectric typewriter. And the secretary wouldn't let anybody touch it because that was hers. And that cost it was like $1,500 or something like that. And that was a lot of money back then, But I'll never forget that. Of course, they would do all this stuff, and we'd give them handwritten documents, and she'd type it up. And I remember that. I remember when I was a kid, I remember having black and white TV, and that was it. And payphones, and just regular dial-up phones, and we had no computers, no nothing, When I went to college, I had to learn a computer language, so I chose COBOL. That was a big mistake. All those cards, we had to do all these cards, and feed them into machines, and if you got one card wrong, or if you dropped them, you were in a lot of trouble. I mean, we have come so far in this Jello world. Andrew my songwriter son, has a thing. Music makes a difference in this Jello world. Well, technology, I think, makes a difference in this Jello world too. It could be used for good. It could be used for not so good. And I think it's important that that people try as hard as they can to make sure that technology is pointed in the direction of good, where it helps people as opposed to hurt people. I mean, I'm gonna still ride my horse for as long as I possibly can, and I'm gonna still try to help my kids as long as I can. One of the reasons why I started my music history channel was because of my love of music, and the fact that I was trying to monetize that too. I thought that would give us some extra income coming in, stuff like that, and I could use that money to invest in more XRP. I'm not there yet. I need like 10,000 subscribers, but I'm getting there. It's doing very, very well. I'm getting a lot of I'm having really a lot of fun interacting with people on that site. It's a lot of fun. It keeps me honest and keeps me going. But anyway, so that's that's me. That's funny. Ramblin' Ray Maternic. I did a cover of the song. You ever heard of the song Carnival? You ever seen the movie The Joker?
Yes. Yeah.
You know the song I Am Carnival?
I don't.
That
don't know.
that movie. It's by an old artist, 60s artist. He only had one album out in 65 called Jackson C. Frank. I love that art. I love his music. It was probably, I think, one of the most significant albums ever put out in the 60s. I recommend everybody listen to the music of Jackson C. Frank. He wrote a song called Blues Run the Game. But it was covered by a lot of people like Simon and Garfunkel and a lot of other folks. But I think one of his songs that really has always intrigued me was Carnival. And on my site there, on my YouTube thing, I do a cover of My Name is Carnival. And it has like almost 9,000 views or something. It really shocked me. That's just my, I started playing the guitar when I was 60. So I started about 10 years ago, when Andrew was in the hospital, teaching myself how to play. And I've written a couple songs. One of the songs I've written on there is called Broken Crayon, Still Color. And it was about, it's about my son and his journey. And also it's kind of a little bit about me too, and coming to the realization that mental illness is a real thing. A lot of people call it the invisible illness. A lot of people refer to it as behavioral health. And I think that's one of the issues with it, because then people say, well, why can't you just behave? They don't realize that a lot of times these people can't. I mean, they don't like when a policeman's yelling at them, they don't understand, they don't comprehend what's going on, or why. And we've been involved in that too. When my son had his first psychotic episode in 2009, they thought he was on drugs, but he had just had his accident, his head injury, and he was on some painkillers, stuff like that. But I won't go into that. I could go down rabbit holes all over the place here. But that's why I got involved in crypto, to help my kids. And primarily to look into NFTs or developing some sort of meme coin that would maybe help them. Try to get some help for that, to do that. I just didn't want to, march out and do it myself. I figured I needed some expertise to do it. And I still do have that dream, to do something like that. My problem is trying to figure out how to make it helpful for people, And I know the NFTs are not really doing well right now. So anyway, I'm sorry, I went on way, way too long.
Nope, you don't apologize. I believe you. I really do. And I feel such deep empathy for you and your family. I'm almost heartbroken at just hearing about it. And I would like to do what I can do to spread awareness, to help you push your goal, your mission across the finish line. I guess what I would like to do, to show a token for my support for the moment right now, is all of the donations that I will receive for my lives for the next week. I will send that to you. I will give you that if you want through PayPal. I'll send XRP for it. However you want to receive that, all of the donations that I receive over the next week, I will send that to you. with your permission, I would also like to share your story online, to spread the awareness.
Absolutely.
And maybe at some time in the future, I know that this was something that was brought to my attention before you had came up, but maybe in due time we can create something for you where maybe we have a pool of donations for you. So if I could have your blessing on that, I would like to support you the best way that I could.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's important. For so many years, you know, people didn't want to talk about things like mental health. They didn't want to talk about getting scammed. They didn't want to talk about anything like that. we, you know, we have to, and the only way we're gonna fix it, not fix, but improve the situation, is to talk about it and show a face with it, because that's the only way. People are gonna try to understand that it can happen to anybody. You know, and I'm still trying to contact that Mike Harris guy, that friend I made. I think I'm not going to say it, but I can't contact him. I've lost touch with him. I think about him a lot. He had a little granddaughter, you know, that he would talk to me about all the time. His granddaughter was living
Could you
with him.
possibly send me a message after this live, and I can get into a better contact with you, and
Yeah.
we'll discuss my intentions with you. Is there anything you'd like to comment on that?
No, I say most importantly is that, if you give up on your dreams now, there's nothing left. I say is that
Yeah.
when I first, I actually invested into something myself, and I lost about 20 grand, right? And it really put me in a bad space, and I really, I started to think about, well, maybe I shouldn't invest anymore. Maybe it's not the best thing for me, right? And I said, well, if I give up on my dreams, my goals, and everything, what else is there left for me to accomplish? And I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to give this one last run. And this is when we started our venture, doing this crypto, spreading awareness, and creating a Discord with over 200 people, 240 people, I'd say. And ever since then, I've made that money back. What I say is, like, you can't give up on your dreams, because if you do, you got nothing left. And, from our referral links and whatever we get from our, cold storage wallets, we're going to try to maybe push that a little bit more to our community, maybe to our subscribers. Whatever we get, we'll send it your way, and we'll try to create something so this way we can spread some more positivity. I wish I could put it in some more group chats.
All right.
But I would have to I would have to ask some of the moderators, but yeah, no, it's a real
I'm grateful
tragic
beyond.
story. It's a real tragic story to hear. I'm truly sorry, but the number one thing that you're doing best is that you're still continuing to move forward. That's the number one thing.
Yep.
So,
I just want to bully. Kathy Lee did post a great comment. Make sure you drop Ray down from the box so he can keep his gifts. Ray, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Ray?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I actually did. I'm one of Bully's moderators, so I actually did bring this to his attention, and I'm happy that he had you on tonight.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not. I have no intention of dropping a ball on you. I have some ideas that I have been talking to Bully about. So we're going to try to put something together. I know you're looking to get some XRP together, and I think we're going to do something in those lines. Community based. I think we'll reach out to most of the creators and get this story out there. I know there's a lot of stories that are out there, but
Yes.
your story, it's got my heart, and I did listen to your son's Code Purple album. That was Ray didn't mention this. He actually made that album in the institution
Yeah.
with a guitar and a regular cassette recorder. And what's pretty cool about it is you could hear the humming in the background of the machinery or the lighting, or I mean, it's just so raw. Um, intense. It's more like a Kurt Cobain type of vibe to it.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. Sad,
Huh.
heartbreaking. I also want to tell the people in the audience here to follow Music History because he does his own content on TikTok. And what he does is he takes these obscure stories from, anywhere from early country to Elvis to rock and roll, these obscure stories that we never hear about. And he goes into depth on them. And it's so, I'm addicted to it. I am absolutely addicted to your page. I got my wife listening to it. I got my buddy listening to it. And it's really cool.
I
So
appreciate that.
yeah, man, I just want to let you know we're not dropping the ball here. You're in our hearts, and we are, I know it takes a little time, but we are working on something. We're not going to forget you. So hang in there. God bless you. You have a great Christmas, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Hey, you take care, Ray. I
Yep.
really appreciate it.
All right, man. Love you,
And,
brother.
Yeah, man. Same
All
here.
right.
So,
Yeah,
but
I would I would
I'll-
like
I'll-
I would definitely like to do everything that I possibly can to help you get across that finish line. Thank you for being brave enough to share this story in front of people, and I can't imagine the scars that it has left, and but if we as a community could possibly absorb a little bit of that pain and give you a little bit of easement, I believe that that's the purest form of love and success, and I would do anything that I can within the community to support you.
I appreciate that. I just don't know what to say. I really don't. Except thank you. I mean, I'm just grateful, and and I'll be honest with you, young people I see young people like yourself and others in here, and and I think the future is secure, and that's really good to know. Um, us boomers really mess things up a lot, I think, in some ways. Some ways we did some good things, but other ways we didn't. But, you know, I appreciate that, man. I know you as Blockchain Bully, but what's your name?
I have not disclosed that to
Oh,
anybody.
okay. I'll call Blockchain then.
Thank you.
I'm Ray, by the way, so that's Ray. Music History is Ray.
Ray, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I mean it. I will do whatever I can to help you.
Yep.
Please send me a message on TikTok,
Will do.
and we'll either have that as our main form of communication, or I could send you the Discord. You can join in the community, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I can do that in the Discord too. I'll send you a message.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to say before we disconnect you?
No, just be careful out there. Everybody. When you get these emails and you get these invitations to join these groups, um, just be careful. Know that there's a good there's a good side of this, and focus on that part of it. Don't get distracted. Press forward and do what you have to do. Um, that's my only advice is keep charging ahead. So
Well, I'd like to leave you with this is just a simple message of there's a lot of love in this community. and there is a lot of support, and we have your back in any way that we possibly can. Anything that we can do to ease that and to help you with your mission of securing your finances, and most importantly, just setting your children up. Because that's how we measure success, is how we help other people. So I thank you so much for coming on, man. Thank you so much for giving me that privilege of being able to feel your story and to help you in any means that I can, and to share that out and to spread awareness.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, okay, I'll be in touch. Watching.
Hey Ray, we have Discord if you want. I don't know if you use it. You're more than welcome to join. All
Yeah,
we do is just
I have used Discord for my business that I tried, the Code Purple thing, but
the link. You can join.
yeah.
And we can talk a little bit more on there. You're more than welcome to talk whenever.
Yeah, so send me a message, and I'll keep in touch with you, and I will stick to my promises to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night, man.
Good night. Take care.